Hey, everybody, welcome to the Other Nine podcast, where we talk about all things recovery, the guiding principles of recovery, except peer support, because everybody's already talking about peer support. So we're going to talk about everything but that. Honestly, we usually wind up talking about peer support anyway. So I'm super excited to have with me today two of my favorite women in business that I love. And it just happens to be Minority Mental Health Month. And so I've got two minority women who work in the mental health industry with me, and they said they would love to jump on a podcast with me and talk about people in minority populations accessing mental health services. So first I want to start with Sharon Holmes, who is my partner in crime. She's been my partner in crime for a lot of years, and she's the owner of Inspiring Here and Now, and they do a lot of stuff. She does the Strong African American Families and Teens trainings. She does the certification training for the peer support specialists here in Washington State after they've gone through their 80-hour training, and it's just an all-around amazing woman. And then I got my friend Annette Jones here, who is the CFO of Jones Community Solutions. And Jones Community Solutions is an extraordinary company who does a lot of work providing peer support, providing training, providing community solutions. That's what they do, is they provide solutions to their community. So first of all, I want to say thank you, both of you, for jumping on here with me and being like, hey, of course we'll talk about, I said to Annette, hey, it's Minority Mental Health Month. And she said, I happen to be a minority. I was like, cool, come on, let's have a conversation about what that looks like. And so, of course, I'm going to sit here and say I have no idea, because as a white woman raised in Ohio, I have some glimpses into just because of knowing amazing women like you. I have some glimpses into the world of living as a minority, but I have no idea at all. And so I really want to be curious and be respectful and just be real, because it's not anything to be cavalier about, because people's lives are definitely impacted in a lot of ways. We know the racial biases in the medical industry, and I was getting ready for this, and I was thinking there last night. I was thinking, have I ever had a therapist, a psychiatrist, a prescriber that wasn't my race? And the answer is no. I never
Wow.
have. My current physician is Hispanic. He's new. I met him once. He seems quite nice, but I've always had people that were my race. And I'm like, wow. Okay, so that's just a place to start. But so I wanted to just give you both an opportunity to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about yourselves, and then we can get into the weeds, as they say, because I think we can have a really amazing conversation.
All right. Well,
Agree with that.
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Sharon, you going to go first?
I can if you want me to. Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, I am Sharon Holmes, and I have more than 20 years experience in project management, workforce education, and training and development. I own Inspiring Here and Now and developed the business after I had some challenges with some mental health issues and going through some trauma in my life. I hold a master's degree in education and in human resources. But I've worked as a Washington State certified peer counselor for many years, and I led peer groups and did a lot of training across the state for the state, and also director of training for Holding Hope, Mary.
You were.
So I've been in the peer world many years, advocating, working, training, teaching, done a lot of things that's focusing around in the peer world. My passionate is educating, empowering others, and focusing on teaching, consulting, and advocacy in my community also. So that's a little bit about me.
Annette.
How do I follow that? That's
It's
okay.
be you.
I'd like to put it out there that I am in community with mentors and women that have been in the game twice as long as I have. So shout out to you all, and it's an honor to be here and to be having this conversation with you. But it's a little skewed. I am looking to glean as much information and knowledge and learning from the two of you as I hope to share any insights that you're interested in. So thank you for that, just first of all.
Sure.
And then, so my name is Annette Jones. I'm co-owner of Jones Community Solutions, and we do exactly that. We look for community solutions to long existing community challenges. And that has looked like a lot of things over the years. We've been doing this since 2013, and we weren't supposed to talk about peer support, but I found peer support because somebody said that the work you're doing is called peer support. There might even be funding in it for you, because all of the services we were providing at the time were free. And so the challenge was real. And so that was the connection. And that started us on our journey of really being supported in the work that we were already doing. So just community solutions and community connections. That's what I'm about. And keeping people in community, connecting people to community, teaching people how to belong and be part of and show up and all of that. That's where my passion is. Because related to recovery, I believe that when we are connected and in a community, a lot of the challenges that we face, we can face. Not that they go away, but we can face them.
Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm always reminded of your perspective when we were in a meeting and with the state, and you were there with your husband, and I was complaining about having to provide breakfast to the trainees. I was like, why do we got to provide breakfast? For crying out loud, can't people eat before they leave the house? And your husband was like, I see this as an opportunity to be able to help people and provide them with nutrition that they may not otherwise. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, make me look like a bad person. He just came from a place of heartfelt connection to people in the room. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll go breakfast. So
He's available for podcasts also.
oh, cool. He just reminded me that why are we here
Right.
and who we serving and
Right. A lot of peers come to us and they don't have especially not the income or,
right.
So some of the times when they come to our groups or trainings that this could be their only meal. We don't know, but we're there to support and serve, do what we can to support people. That's what peer support is all about.
100%. 100%.
Was us. That was exactly us. That was me when I went through the peer training. That was, am I frozen?
You're frozen, but we can still hear you.
We can hear you, but you're
frozen.
There you go.
Sorry. Okay, so that was the week that I went through training. That was the main meal that I was having is whatever was the lunch specifically. And that actually was what had me pursuing all of the continued education and the connection. I love food. So being able to tap into having a meal someplace where I was also working, that was great. And then the food, all sorts of challenges. But anyway, then that we were it could really be for my family, and I was okay. I had already eaten. So thanks for changing your.
I'm going to pause for just a second. I'm going to close the door because there's planes flying by and my dog's barking, and so I'm going to eliminate some noise. And Annette, do you have other tabs open on your browser?
Let me double check
because you're freezing up, but that's okay.
Oh wait, no, that won't close. That's part of this. Double checked.
My dog. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about barriers to access. So, what do you guys see as some of the barriers to access in the minority? Like, what are some of the things in your communities that keep people? And I know, first of all, let's just say you are not speaking on behalf of all people of color everywhere and every minority everywhere. So, if you could just speak to your own experiences as to what you think are the barriers that really keep people from accessing the services that they might need, either some internal barriers or external barriers.
Well, I guess I can actually personally speak on it for sure.
Sure.
Well, the biggest barrier that I see, even with myself and a majority of the minority community, is that we face lower insurance coverage and high costs that may. I thought I turned this thing on. I'm sorry.
That's all right. You're reminding me to turn my stuff
off. Alexa, silence mic, please. Alexa, turn mic off. And somebody's in my yard and at my door. I can see them, but I'm not gonna. Anyway, and like I say, for me and most of the community and the people that is around me that is of color, we have experienced really have faced with low insurance coverage or high costs that has made treatment unaffordable and diagnosis underdiagnosed, and it has led to mistrust and not getting the services that we need. So those barriers are huge, and it's still ongoing, and it's just been lifelong problems that we have just dealt with for many years. And so right now, even with the healthcare systems, that insurance companies that we not able to find that someone that will even support us that's in network, all of that is our barriers that has really plagued us, especially now.
What about you, Annette? What do you think?
So low barrier to access is where I live. It's one of the founding tenets of what we do is I try to always have low barrier to access. A real-time example I can give you is with the peer support program and the training that is being offered. It has been my experience that participants that come to me, if they're employed, right, an employer, if the participant is white, will get the job and be told they'll have 6 months to get the training. Person of color will be told, you can have the job, but you need the training first. So get the training and you can get the job. So then when these two participants now go to the healthcare authority and are trying to get the training, there's a ranking system, right? And so you're number one if you have a job and you need this job for training, you need this training to keep your job. Number two, you have a job possibility, 3, etc. So people of color are never number one. So they can't get the training that they need to get the job, while white people are getting the job and the training that they need. So where we sit as an organization is we very deliberately ask for those lower ranking numbers and bring them into community. Because when we first started doing this training, quite honestly, it was all white people that were participants in the training. When we started asking for those different numbers, we started seeing people that looked like us. It was amazing, and we continue to do that. And it wasn't just people of color, it was also men. There were no, I was lucky to have one man in my training. I'm very proud to say that in my last training, I actually counted and it was 50-50.
Oh, wow.
So
Nice.
that it was
Yes.
50-50, and that was great. And so we have a lot of work to do to represent gender in general and all of that, but it's definitely we're headed in the right direction. So and making a difference. But that's the best example I have. And then probably personally judgment. There have been experiences I've had going in and receiving services, whether it's medical or otherwise, where I'm treated like I don't know myself, have a clue, and I don't have the education and I don't have the knowledge, and I go in and I'm very treated much like this, and to my detriment. I'm the only one that's going to suffer when that practitioner gets it wrong. So, and that for me results in me not seeking not seeking the typical type of services. I'm always looking for outside the box support and services, hashtag peer support, which I don't hashtag all that stuff. But anyway, if I did, I think it would go there.
It's really interesting to hear you guys talk about it, because it's just that whole concept of systemic, and how the way that things are structured, and the way that the system, that the rules, like, so those rules that go into place that the state has for ranking who gets into the training, they make perfect sense, right? Until you add in that layer of racism that is just there, that you don't even realize is there. And that it's just a dog whistle racism, if you will, that like I never would have even known that if you hadn't said that, Annette, or that. And so that's the part to me that is just so insidious with this whole thing. And how do you, and it's so hard to put your finger on it and point to it, but not so much anymore. I was having a conversation with somebody about, they were going to have some surgeries, and so I was trying to help them feel better. So I was reading the risks, right? So, and one of the highest risks, the high risks populations was minority people, and like they have worse outcomes. And she's like, why? And I had to explain to her, because there's this whole internal systemic bias in the medical community against people who are not white. And it's just like, there it is right there in the outcomes. If you're a Black woman, if you're anything other than a white person, your outcomes are going to be worse than somebody who is of the dominant culture. And it was striking. It was really striking to both of us. It made her feel better. It accomplished its goal, but but it was also really a teaching lesson for both of us to go really think about that. Like, why are the outcomes so much worse? And so do you think that that whole experiential learning that your entire community has, do you think that might be part of the internal stigma about mental health within minority communities? Like, well, first of all, is the stigma in minority communities about mental health different than in the white communities, do you think?
Absolutely.
Do you think it is?
Always have been, and probably always will be, because we've been set back now for years on what we have been trying to, some of the struggles that we thought was getting through to get more support. But now it seemed to be going backwards. But yes, the stigma, first of all, it has been since, like, even from slavery on, where the stigma was so bad, where we had parts of our ancestors that was just experimented on. And so a lot of that stuff is embedded in our culture, where the mistrust, or and the stigmas around, okay, we need to take care of ourselves, we we don't have the money for talk about mental health therapy and all that stuff. So it's just not something that a lot of us have even had to deal with, or we didn't deal with it, or we didn't have the money to, or it just wasn't something was available for us.
Do you think that might have something to do with the fact that of the limited amount of practitioners that you could see?
Absolutely. I've experienced it where I have had a first time I ever even was referred to a therapist, that I just didn't go back because I didn't feel like I was listened to, or they didn't understand. And it was just something that it made me feel like, why am I here? You're not even listening to me. What are we talking about? It didn't make sense to me.
I remember one time you and I went out to, there was that casino by the airport, and we and we went in and Sharonda was with us. I believe it was Sharonda because the people
Yeah.
from Harborview were there. And
Right.
so then a whole bunch of Sharonda's friends came in and they were talking about, and this was the first time when I really realized the impact of having a therapist who was also a minority person. And they were talking, one of them was an Asian American who had moved from New York. And
Right.
she's like, this is the first time that I've had a client come into me and talk to me like, well, you know how they are, because we were both not members of the white community.
Right.
They were both minorities, and how that client just completely, and she was shocked, right? Because she didn't see herself as a minority therapist. But when that person came in and saw her, they were just instantly relieved because there was another person who could recognize their lived
Yes.
experience.
Absolutely. And she is so good at what she does and being able to be a therapist because we don't seeing people like that looks like us, that is critical to us being able to feel like we're being heard and seen and actually gonna have that support that we need. I have been where I'm being told what I need, not because you're Black, we will go ahead and prescribe you this. Well, I'm Black, but I'm not exactly like everybody else. So, but listen, I know my body, listen to me. And I have
Mhm.
never had that. Even when I got hurt and you came down to support and help me
I did.
and got me
I
support.
came down and hauled her ass over to the emergency room and was like, yeah, and you got an MRI.
Right.
And
And
we
they
went to a
wouldn't
couple,
give
three
me
different
one.
doctors.
They
They
thought I
wouldn't.
was drug seeking and they would not. And today my arm is still, if they had treated me earlier, my hand and arm would be where it should be today. And it is not. And it wasn't, and just for you, now I'm coming back. But if I didn't have your support at the time, I still would be probably, I don't even in a worse situation I am today. So
We went back and forth. There were
yes,
doctors who were horrified and
that was
supported us, and other people that just like ignored us. And I just stood there. I really didn't do much other than just be myself, and that was apparently enough to get her the help she was supposed to get. The tests, the MRI, and
absolutely.
the MRI came back and showed tearing. It was just like what?
Like I
Like
told them it was something wrong and they
and they were
would
very. It
not
was
give
yeah.
me an extra. They would not do it. And Mary came down and supported me on getting that. And she made them do it. And they listened to Mary, but they
They
wouldn't
listened
listen
to.
to,
They didn't want to argue with me.
yeah,
I don't know. I think they didn't want to argue with me, whereas they were okay with arguing with her. I
yeah.
guess is how it went.
I,
I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I just know it was
yeah,
shocking to witness. That's all I know. And so it was just one of those situations. And when you're not at 100% and you're
that's,
already coming forward distorted or like in your case in
yeah,
pain,
in
or
pain.
like
Yeah,
in my case if I am trying to access services
yeah,
because your thinking isn't right, your
right.
mental health isn't right, and then you're just I
Yeah,
can't imagine what that would be like to then try to convince people that you need
right.
something when they're convinced that it's not that a mental health issue, it's just that's just the way you are.
Right.
So we've really covered a lot like around the mistrust. I think what's it like, Annette, when people come to Jones Community Services and they feel and they get a different reaction or a different response than what they had typically been getting? Do they like verbalize it and they go, oh, this is cool, or do they just not notice?
It's life-changing and humbly said. Uh, but and that's part of what we all access when we get into peer support and all of that. It's usually life-changing for people that experience it. Uh, for us in our organization, though, when you go through our trainings or conversations by design, so that we can really have the tough conversations, so that we can build the trust needed for someone to voice an unpopular something, and then for us to receive it and then process it and produce something, a different thought, a different perspective behind it. It's really not difficult, not impossible, but it's difficult to get to the point where you can have not just a difficult conversation, but people stay for it.
Mm.
Because we all come right to the point of, you've pissed me off, now I got to go. And we're creating a
Yeah.
space where you don't have to go. And the I got to go is tied to what usually comes next is debate, conflict, and canceling somebody. And so that's usually why some people leave the conversation, is because my opinion, my voice, my whatever I'm going to say is not popular. And so the majority is going to cancel me. And so I'd rather just leave the conversation and preserve not being canceled. So with us, there's the acknowledgement that we're going to have difficult conversations, and please stay. Even if you have to stand at the back of the room to listen or go outside for a minute and then come back, whatever the case may be, come back into the conversation, because we can't have that hard conversation without you. You're the only one. You're the person that has come the closest or has had the most courage or whatever the case may be. You're the one that's come the closest to us being able to have that conversation. I know a lot of different difficult conversations to have, but they all resonate with me. I have to wait for it to come up naturally within the trainings that we do. And so each training is different. Each training is potentially life changing for the people that participate, if they participate.
And if you extend that out, then those people are so much more empowered to provide peer support and empowerment to other minorities to say, hey, it's okay for you to speak up and ask for what you need. When historically you've been ignored, right? I can help you, or I can stand with you. I can give you some tools to help you ask for what you need. And in an environment that you may not be heard, I can give you some tools to help amplify your voice. And that's not
Yes,
going to.
and so the way that that came across to me was that I'm doing something wrong. So here's tools how here's tools I can use to access this better because I'm doing something wrong. And that is part of the challenge, I think, is that I'm not doing anything wrong. The
No.
providers have their biases and have the way that they're showing
Yeah.
up, and they're doing something wrong. If anyone's doing something wrong, we err on the side of blaming the professional, right? Because the professional
Yes.
has received the education, the professional is being paid to do it
Mhm.
right. So between the two of us, I get to be wrong. And don't throw tools at me when you're going to keep your professional wrong. So
Yes.
I sit in the position of educating those professionals and giving tools to those professionals because how we've been
100%.
doing it is not right and we
Mhm.
need to do it differently. So I'm not throwing tools at the receiver. I'm throwing tools at the professional. They need to come at me differently. If you want me to walk through your
Absolutely.
door, don't judge me when I do it. Plain and
I
simple.
love that so much. I love that so much. I can't even tell you how much I love that because you're right. You're absolutely right. It's like teaching women how not to be sexually assaulted.
Exactly, exactly,
I love
exactly.
that so much that you just put that out there because that really made me stop and be like, wait, what? Oh. So here's my question also. How much do you think of the experiences that you've both had have come down to being women as opposed do you think that it's more complicated by more intensified because you're women? Or do you think it's or not? I know it's hard to separate your race from your gender, right? Like where do we separate this? Why are people treating me bad? Is it which one?
For me, it's another layer, and it's just where, depending on what the feeling is, what I have to lead with. People are usually pretty clear with what they don't like. So if they don't like Black people, I can feel that. If they don't like women, I can feel that. If they don't like Black women, I'm out.
Oh, it's
I gotta
obvious.
go.
Yes.
I gotta
Yes.
go.
Yeah,
Yes.
right?
I agree with you in that. Yes. Same. It's can come in layers. It's
It's
just
layers.
you never whatever situation you walk in, it could be because I'm a Black woman. It could be just because I'm just Black, or it could be it's just throughout life. It could be one thing or another.
And then within, I think you mentioned internal, just within just being a woman,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
who I am as a woman among other women and the challenges that is. So it's layers upon layers
It's
upon
just
layers
yes.
How do
upon
you
layers.
cope?
Say that again.
How do you cope? When
How
the
do you
Trump administration started attacking women and discontinuing funding for like the small bit, like the women-owned businesses and different things, I called Sharon up and I was like, "How do you do this? Oh my God, how do you do?" Like, so like, how do you cope in a world like this, where we currently are in this current administration in 2026? But this is just the latest intensification of an underlying reality that you both live in, and I don't, and I would just love to know for the other women of color that are watching this podcast, how do you cope?
Well, I think for me, I come from a long line of resilient women that has been dealing with this all their lives. And we have to be resilient. We cannot give up. We have to be there for our next generations or whatever. And we do what we can to support, love them, and educate them on some of the past experiences that we went through and try to make sure that they have a community around them that will and can support them. Other than that, this stuff that's just happening now, it's I sometimes say, I don't know how my ancestors did this. Some days that I'm like, what do you
Yeah.
think, Annette? It's
For me, it's I cope through connection, and
yeah,
uh, by that, you, Sharon and Mary. You pretty much demonstrated that with
yeah,
exactly what you just
yeah.
said. I'm able to tap out and not care about some things
Mm,
that very much impact me because there are people that care about me around me that do.
yes.
So I don't have a political bone in my body. Politics is not my thing. And I don't want to have political discussions about my life, a la Black Lives Matter. My life is not up for political debate, is how
Mhm.
I feel about that. However, I know it's a debate all day, every day. So I know that because it's a debate all day, every day, it's important enough for me to know about it and have my eyes on it, or have somebody looking out and saying, hey, Annette, you need to pay attention now, or it's okay, Annette, I got this. And my husband very much does that. He loves this stuff, and that's his thing. And he goes all out, and there are things he'll ask me to pay attention to, and there'll be things he'll be like, you're not gonna really want to get with this one. And that's community, no matter, regardless of race,
Right.
and what we do for each other. And I think that when we get when you get to know somebody, when you live in their life, where they might need a break and where they might need to sit something out, or when you meet them. I know that one person I was working with one time, I came in to, it was my supervisor, and I came in, it was during COVID, so all of our meetings were via Zoom. And whatever was happening. And it was all I could do to show up. It was either call in for the day or show up. And I needed the money. So I showed up and fixed my face, and I was trying not to cry. And she took one look at me and she's like, Annette, I think that today I'd like you to take the day off and just know that I'm going to be holding the hope for you.
Yes.
And before I could say anything, she like ended the conversation. So I was like, oh. And then the next day when I went back, she was like, you needed it, whatever it is. And you didn't need people prying, and you just needed, and that's the connection that sometimes we just need some people to see that we've had enough.
Right.
We do all this. We do this all day, every day. But sometimes it's enough. And which I guess leads to allyship. I don't believe that I can call myself an ally. It's the person I'm trying to be an ally to that calls me an ally. Because I'm only an ally when I've shown up for somebody the way that they needed, where I've continued where they weren't able to. So if I showed up in a rally that they didn't go to, or a protest that they didn't go to, you can bet your ass that I would be like, hey, Mary, you're an ally because you showed up. I can't do one more protest. Thank you for doing that for me. I drive by on my way to work. There are people that are protesting about ICE right now. Thank you. Because it's scary just to live my life right now. I don't have the wherewithal to go out and protest about it. It's scary just living my life. Right. And so true allyship, in my opinion, is you doing the things that I'm not safe to do.
Right.
Mary, you're safe all day, every day, to not only protest, but I can see you out there with your sign, send everybody out and daring somebody to say something about it or do something about it. For me, I could do the same things, very different outcome.
Very different.
Would include sirens in jail and
right.
And now I feel bad because I haven't been to any. I moved to Canada. That's my protest. I'm like, I'm out.
No, you moved to Canada, but then we all do what we can, what we can, when we can, and in the ways that we can. And this podcast is one of them. Somebody somewhere is going to see something, and
exactly.
We all do what we can when we can. And I bet you very much so Sharon calls you an ally without me even asking her.
Absolutely. I have, Mary, I have my peer supporters and people around me that I could call up and will come in a heartbeat. She'll be here in a minute. She will be and have. And so and we need that. We all need that. We need to show up, and I will show up for her in a heartbeat anytime, any day, anyway.
And she has, right? We show up for each other. So to me, it's not even allyship. It's just friendship. It just happens to be one of the first times I met, I've known Sharon for a while, but we were driving someplace, and there was 3 people in the car, and I was sitting in the back seat. Sharon was driving, and there was another person in the front seat. And we dropped that person off, and we only had about a mile to go down the road. So I wasn't going to get out of the car and get in the front seat because I was like, whatever, lazy. And she's like, you gonna stay back there, Miss Daisy? Like, yes, I am. And it was like we just can talk. It was like we just were immediately at ease talking about race, and it was just like
not a problem.
So tell me this: how, when you're working in the system, how, as the behavioral health system, what are some things that need to happen to make it more welcoming to the minority community? What are some things that administrators or HR professionals can do besides just diversity training, which I guess is a good start, right? But it ticks a box. But what are some internal culture things that you can point to that say, this is a place I know where I'm safe, and I have no problem referring people to it?
Connection.
What does that look like when you walk in the waiting room?
It looks like them being pleased to see you instead of you're here again.
You're right.
It means knowing that this is your first time here. It means as the receptionist, the intake, whatever you want to call them at the front desk, it means they care about the people that are coming through the door, and they're wanting to get to know them. They're not just a person coming through the door. I'm Mary, so glad to see you. How you doing? And I understand HIPAA and all of that. So there's a lot of stuff. I'm not going to know what goes on after you see me at the front desk, but I know that you're going to be happy to see me at the front desk before you ever even go back there, because I'm going to care about you. I'm going to care that, glad you made it today, whatever the case may be. Welcome into the space. That doesn't happen a lot. It's just, hi, can I help you? And knowing whether or not I'm a member, knowing whether or not I've gone through the process, knowing all of that. And then when you find out I'm new, taking an interest in me, showing I'm around. If you have any other questions, you're going to be well cared for. But if you have any questions, something confuses you, come back here, because they're the first person. And if you can get lost, depending on how big the service is, Navos, Valley Cities, all those types of things, it can get confusing. Who better just to chit chat? Who better to chit chat than the reception? Who better than to occupy the people in the lobby than the receptionists?
And it's also really helpful and critical to have somebody on staff that looks like me. Sometimes I walk in a room and you see, it's nobody there that of color. I'm not, Asian, nobody. But when I walk into some of those big agencies like that, and even if I see one person, I don't know, it's a different feeling. It's a different feel right now on how that shows up, and it's noticeable. So I would like to see. Go ahead.
I say for me, that's tied to safety. And when we were talking about stigma earlier, what I was thinking about is, so the term stigma, there's how communities feel about mental health, and then how mental health feels about the communities that they serve. And when we're talking about how communities, right? Well, when we're talking about how communities feel about mental health, a lot of their feelings are tied to safety and them feeling safe or unsafe when they receive the services. So in my opinion, it's unfair to say that these communities have created stigma around mental health. The stigma isn't around mental health and receiving services or not. The stigma or the issue is safety and me not feeling safe when I go to receive these services. And that gets buried or not addressed because we're talking about stigma. It's not about, let's put stigma up there and let's talk about my safety right here and right now. When I show up into your spot and it's all white people, how are you going to make me feel safe? And how are you going to address the fact that to get here, I drove through a drive-through where this has really happened. I drove through a drive-through, and when the person couldn't see me and was taking my order, and we were all happy and everything was great, and I'll take your order and get here, and you're gonna have this, and it's gonna be a great time. I pulled up and the face fell, and she was like, here's your order. It was a completely different, and the only thing that had changed between her hearing my voice and me taking my order was her seeing my face. I automatically did not feel safe.
Yes.
And was grateful that she saw my face after she had made my order. So translate that to actually getting medical help.
Especially when you're sick or not feeling well.
Right, especially when you show up and your thinking is distorted and your communication is impacted, and all of that.
All of that.
What role do families and faith communities and religious leaders and cultural leaders play in helping or hindering a person's journey and access to mental health services or treatment services?
Well, letting that go, I always I
mean, it plays a huge role in everybody's life. The impact is open for interpretation, right?
Exactly.
How the family feels about mental health support, how all of those places, how they feel about mental health support will determine how I then pursue receiving it, if I pursue receiving it. I firmly believe peer support belongs everywhere because it's a doorway into receiving these services and all of that, but it's a doorway you don't have to walk through to still receive the benefits of mental health services. Because peer support specialists, they have an understanding of services. They have an understanding of their own journey, of course, and what they've needed to do to navigate through that. And just receiving peer support alone, you're receiving someone who has just that understanding and that patience where everyone else's patience might have run thin with you. The bridges we tend to burn when we're going through all of those types of things, right? Yes. And I think that connects to the connection that I was talking about, and being able to, we need to be able to tag each other out and in and up and down in all of the different ways. Yes. Like, you will complete me. You'll be able to carry on if we're all doing good work. I don't want the good work to stop just because I get burned out or pissed off or hurt feelings or beat up or whatever the case may be. I want to be able to tag out and tag somebody else in. And the more connected I am in community, the better I get at tagging the right person in, right? Not somebody that's going to make us go backwards. I want to tag in someone that's going to keep us going forward.
I totally agree. So it can be a barrier, but it also can be it's a powerful support if they're there for the right reasons and at the needed time that person needs them in their mental health journey. Otherwise, it can be a big hinder. And if that person's not in the right mind to even know that this person or the group or leader or whatever do not have their best interest, or it's not, that particular one may not be for that person. And they're not there to recognize that this is not good for me. So it can be powerful, but it also could be hindering, can set them back.
Do you think that the sense of safety, going back to what you were talking about, Annette, with regards to feeling safe when you access services, do you think that the stigma around accessing services came from people not being safe? And so they just were like, oh, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You don't need mental health services, because they just knew the person would not be safe accessing those services?
Not completely.
No.
There's still there's also the culture and cultural beliefs and there stigma does exist, but I feel that is not that's not the bigger issue. Because if I sit among any family, I would imagine that when I have a conversation with them about their culture versus behavioral health support, we would be able to find a common ground. And for those areas where there's support needed, what's coming to mind is domestic violence, even situations where it's not the norm, but it's not out of the norm either in some cultures. For that's how families are dealt with. Everyone gets it, and everyone can get it. And going in and just saying everybody's wrong and you got to stop it in jail, that's not gonna solve it. Going in and having a conversation with them about how and why you do this, and do you really want to do this, and what other tools you have coping, having right support conversations with them is so important. And I think that that's why I believe in peer support so much, because it's just us showing up. Yes, we are mandated reporters, but we can have conversations with you before that. But because of our lived experience, it's possible we see some writing on the walls, and we can have just some conversations that will get people thinking in different directions and thinking about the fact that I don't really want to be like this, or, oh, I do really want different coping skills. And I didn't have the words before I had that conversation with Sharon. That's what I found with peer support. I was doing a lot of these things. I was operating as a peer support without knowing the language. And being given the language, now I've been practicing that for 10 years, and it's so much better, right? It's so much better. But it's taken me 10 years to get here. I couldn't have had this conversation with y'all 10 years ago.
What would it have been like 10 years ago?
A lot of screaming and hollering and crying.
You would have been an angry Black woman?
Oh man.
That stigma.
If you could see that between my tears, yes.
Okay, yeah.
I would be more hurt. I would be hurt and feeling unsafe. And it's not that I don't feel those things now. I just have learned a lot of tools along the way to cope. I have connections now. And I see it as the good work that we're doing to change the system, right? We call ourselves change makers as peer support specialists. And when I'm talking to peer specialists about it, everyone's very individualized in how I'm going to change somebody else's life. First, I don't have the power to change somebody else's life. That's
change yourself.
So, but what I do have the power to change are systems. And so I like being able to talk about the fact that when we talk about being change makers as peer support specialists, in my opinion, we're talking about systems change more than individual change. Because I want to change Mary, but I don't have control over that. Mary does. So that's not even, and when Mary changes, that's Mary. That's not something I can control. But I can control the fact that when I started these trainings, there was only white women in my trainings. And now there's 50-50 and a diverse group of that I could change. That was a system that I changed. And I'm very proud of that. And that's what I want to teach all of us. We all can do that. In whatever capacity we operate in this world, we have the capacity to change a system. So I'm going to say it here too, because it's going to happen. How wonderful would it be if peer specialists were greeters at Walmart? And how wonderful would it be if loss prevention were peer specialists at Walmart? Just think about with your experience with peer support and what we do and all of that, just the solutions that we would come up with and the things that how we would address the challenges. Theft is a crime of poverty, mostly, right? There are some thrills and all of that people might be getting and other reasons, but mostly it's a crime of poverty. So if peer specialists were there, first of all, we would be getting to know these people and chronic people and all of that, and we would be working with them to support them and give them the resources that they need, the education that they need, the tools that they need to change their life without jail.
Agree.
Without
Absolutely.
jail. Oh my God.
Wow. Powerful.
Lofty. I love it. It's awesome though. I love it. I
want to piss off those private prisons. I want them to go out of business because they're a business.
I do too.
I want them just to go out of business because there's nobody to put them in. Nobody.
Right.
There isn't anybody.
No, just even me starting at the grass root level of trying to reach the teens and their parents to cut off that school to prison pipeline. It's just hard that, but though they just need to go away, and they still being funded and also worked off the back of the poor and the blacks and the it's just one of those things, systems that definitely needs to be changed.
We need to be hopeful. We need to think about. We need to infuse some hope and optimism into our conversation because I'm feeling really sad.
Are you getting depressed, Mary?
It's like, oh my God, this is really bad out there. In here, it's really bad. What's the most encouraging thing that you've seen happen recently in the mental health system, or in like your own systems, or you're in the mental, especially around like the behavioral health system?
I don't have an answer for that one, Sharon. I'm gonna give that one to you. Most encouraging thing I've seen in the mental health.
Annette, look at you. You're like, oh my God, I don't
I
even
know. It's in today's climate.
Well, so that's fascinating for a couple of reasons. The first is that this conversation is actually not too depressing for me. So I'm fascinated by the fact that you feel that it is, Mary. And then secondly, I fancy myself a pretty positive person. So the fact that I was able to come up with all the answers for everything else you asked, but a positive thing I could not think of, I'm fascinated by that. But I will say that when you're in it, it's hard to know and see what good is happening around and floating around. And I would say that probably peer support is a movement, and it's still here and it's growing.
Yes,
and I believe that I wouldn't have said something as silly as it belongs at Walmart if I didn't think that it would actually get there one day. And I believe it will. And I believe that we had to do the work that we've been doing within the behavioral health setting to prepare us to go mainstream, if you will, and to prepare us to bring it to the masses the way that the three of us specifically, but a lot of other individuals I have in mind in general are going to be able to bring it. Because it's definitely a phenomenal tool that can be utilized in a lot of different ways. I think that one of the things I was reading about or actually, one of the things that I always talk to participants about is that we're not competition for anyone. We complement everyone. And it's just a matter of you have to know yourself and how you want to provide peer support, and then figuring out what everybody else needs. Because if we lead with listening as true peer specialists, we're going to learn what they need. And then I'm going to know what I have to complement that. And if I don't personally have it, that's where we tap into somebody else. That's where we connect to somebody else. That's not my specialty, but I know whose specialty it is, type of thing.
Nice. Absolutely.
To me, it's encouraging that you have taken you and Javon have really taken your values and turned it into an enterprise. I love that. Where you really do take your values are really reflected in everything that you do. Your own personal value of yourself, as well as integrity for yourself, the integrity for the people that come in front of you. I see that in all the work that you guys do. And it's really impressive to me. And Sharon, I love the way that you've brought your passion to the teens. I remember when you first bring in safety to Washington State, and you were taking it out to different churches, and there was a church pastor who cried when you gave him all the data. He was just crying. He just had tears because it's just so heartfelt. The work that is so real and so needed. And so hidden, right? It's just so hidden that it's not out there where people are talking about it and funding. Well, there are some funding things coming through, but not a lot, right? So I
hard to sell love and connection.
It is hard to sell love and connection.
That's pretty much what we're selling. Your safety program, Sharon, in my opinion, it takes the place of not takes the place, but it shows us a way. So if peer support shows us how to be kind, caring people and all of that, your safety program, in my opinion, shows us unification and reunification can look like, or is supposed to look like, because there are a lot of things going back to punishment in our communities. Providers will come into our lives and our communities under the guise of wanting to provide support and say, oh no, you're doing this all wrong, and tear us apart and blame the parents for it. And your program does the work of celebrating the whole family, but also the parents. The parents, we still have a place and a part and a role that we play.
And connecting them to community, because especially in Washington State, we are so divided and separated out could be a single mom with teenage kids that is having to just pretty much be on their own most of the time because his mom is working 2 and 3 jobs just to put the food on the table. So no community is out there to support. And of course, we're proud people that we don't ask for help most of the time. We're not trained to or we don't, with that stigma or shame is there.
So if I ask for help, you're going to take my kids. Because you're
Right.
going to say, I'm not
Exactly. And that's
qualified. I
exactly
can't
what
handle it.
happens.
My
Yep.
There's
God.
fear. There's no stigma. There's fear. It is fear.
Exactly.
That is the bottom line. It is fear.
Exactly.
I don't ask for help out of
Right.
fear. You're going to take my kid.
Right.
And it's not even just taking my kid, because maybe I could use a break, but
Right.
it's the getting the kid back.
Right.
Right? Because if I'm
It's
struggling,
so
if I'm
many
working all the
right.
jobs and all that, maybe I could use a
Yeah.
break. But when am I
Yeah.
going to get back, and how much extra do I have to do? So not only am I working the 3 jobs and doing this and that, but now you're telling me that I have to take classes that I have to pay for because I'm doing something wrong in order to get my kids back that I was taking care of. I was doing the very best I could.
Yes.
And now you're going to punish me and give me more and charge me for it.
Exactly.
That kills me. I'm poor. I'm working 3 jobs because I can't afford to live already. And now you're going to give me more bills. Come on, man. Who sets this up?
That's what we deal with. That's
It's
exactly.
not by design. Get the actual F out of here. Mary, invite me back when we can have a podcast where I can cuss.
Right.
You can cuss. I do.
No, that'll be part 2. This is
That'll
just,
be part-
I can't come out the box. Like,
Let's take the Jones Community Services Solutions out from behind you, and then you can cuss all you want. We'll just have raging, swearing.
no, anybody that comes to JCS knows me. It's okay. I'm talking about out of respect for you, and this is your business.
I appreciate
I'm
that.
at your house.
Please. I know. I just recently because I have a lady and she takes my videos and cuts them all up. And she just posted a video where I started with the F-bomb. I'm like, okay, the opening line is me saying, I'm the one who fucked you up. I'm like, what is that?
Whoa.
And it didn't have anything to do with the rest of the clip. I was like, did
Whoa.
you could have edited that a little bit different? But apparently not.
wow.
Apparently not. I'm like, okay. Well, the algorithm says it's doing really well. I'm like, okay. Whatever you say. So, all right, you guys, I am so excited to have this conversation. We've been sitting here talking for an hour, which I think is really awesome. Time just flies. And so I just want to summarize that what I heard you say was the way you personally cope and the way the system needs to change are the same. And that is connection. And you cope and you stay safe and you find your sources of strength in connection and personal rejuvenation by connecting with other people. And when that's reflected in the systems that you access, you have a better chance of doing it. And the way that let's say somebody who runs an organization, let's say the leader of Navos, or the CEO of Navos or Valley Cities is watching this podcast. One of the easy things they could do is hire people who are really good at what they do and also happen to be people of color, and go the extra mile of making that distinction. It's unpopular in America as that is right now. But to find people who all things are equal, right? They're really good at what they do and they provide safety for the people who are walking through the door just by virtue of how they look.
Exactly.
And that's an easy thing to do, honestly, right? I mean, it's a decision. It's a decision. I've made that decision myself. I've made that decision myself where we were going to do something. And I said to my staff, could we find some people that aren't white? I don't remember what it was, but it was important to me that the conversation included people who weren't white. And one time, just to Beverly Miller, God rest her soul, when she was another person who did the testing, and it was like COVID was happening, and I'm looking for work, and so I'm asked Sharon, how do I become a tester? I'm glad I didn't do that now, but at the time, and so she talks to Beverly, and Beverly was like, we don't need another old white woman doing the testing.
She did. She told me, she says, that's the reason why I brought you on, because we've always had up at the state level is white women. Now we need a black, we need you in your organization and to do the testing now. I'm bringing you on and I'm going to train you. I said, okay.
I agree with her.
Connection.
I totally agree with her. I totally
there you go. There you
if you're going, I totally agree with her. I think I was more offended by the old than I was by the white.
But that happened.
But quite honestly, that right there needs to be able to happen. It needs to be when we talk about being an ally, sometimes it means taking a hit. Sometimes it means you're not getting hired and being told that we're going to go this way. It's specifically you that we're not hiring. That doesn't feel good, no matter who it is. And that's a huge pill to have to swallow, particularly depending on who you are, how long you've been in the game, all of the things, qualification, right? And so having to tell Mary Jadwiziak that you're not qualified to do, right? Like,
Beverly Miller did not hesitate.
Right. And because that was I feel like that was a qualified conversation. Like you two were qualified to have that conversation. On the outside looking in, wow. And if
that
being able to follow that, being able to say that, wow, Mary is someone that you could, maybe not everyone can have that conversation with her, but I saw that conversation happen. So maybe I could talk to Mary about some stuff. Oh, yeah. Right. Like she's open to taking some of the hits that we've all been taking, because if the pendulum was so far in the wrong direction, it's going to swing back in the other direction. before it comes back to the middle. And so somebody has to be taking the hits over here.
The pendulum has swung.
And
I'm waiting for it to come back. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's really, to me, that's really what, it's not that you just have to continuously be getting your ass kicked as an ally.
No.
That's not what I'm saying.
But understand what she's saying is, right, when you're taking a test, it'd be nice if you look across the table and there's somebody there that isn't the dominant culture, testing you.
Right.
Like, come on. That's just like, can we just have everybody comes in, it's the even playing field. We all get the same, right?
That's right.
Oh, ladies, we just can't solve everything, but we can solve how we walk in the world with what's right in front of us, right? It was just like one of the things that I've always said is all I can do really is what's right in front of me. What's right in front of me, and do that to the best of my ability.
Some days.
Do that to the best of my ability. And however that turns out, that's God's will for me today, right?
That's right.
And so if I can just do this to the best of my ability, and it's so interesting for me that I have had an opportunity to be in relationship with folks like you and Javon and Coach B and other people who are also not of the dominant culture, and just be able to learn so much. And sometimes I feel I'm like, oh, I wish my community was close like that. Like, well, I wish I had a barbecue to get invited to. Like, there's no barbecues around here. I know I would get invited, but they're like up here in Canada. Right? So I really respect both of you so much, and I respect the work that you're doing and the people whose lives you're touching, and so grateful that you jumped on here and had this conversation with me. And just for those of you who are watching at home, I called them yesterday. That's how these women show up. That's how they show up. Right. And so it's like, yes, of course we'll do this for you, Mary. And so I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I love you both.
Love you, Mary. A long time.
So before we go, I need to ask you the same thing I ask everybody else, right? Which is, what gives you hope?
Community and connection.
Community and connection.
One trick pony over there.
I heard that. What gives me hope? That I do the best I can on holding the hope for myself and all. That's what gives me hope.
Fantastic.
How about you, Mary?
What gives me hope is
Yes.
A peer defined hope for me many years ago as the reasonable expectation that things can get better.
No,
and so
absolutely.
I'm always, so no matter where I am, whether it's good or bad, I know it can always get better.
It will get
So
better.
sometimes the things that give me hope are also the things that break my heart. Right. But I can find the hope, and I can be there with it. And also just knowing that there's people like you in the world where I don't have to do it all. I can just do my fair share.
Say, tag, you're it.
Tag, you're it.
Yep.
And to all you people out there, tag, you're it.
That's
do the best you can with what you have right in front of you.
That's right.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. Love you both.
Bye.